Imagine a country with over 1.4 billion people, a country that has one of the world's largest economies, a country that has sent thousands of peacekeepers to conflict zones, a country that possesses nuclear weapons and has successfully reached the moon. Yet, this country still does not have a permanent seat in the world's most powerful decision making body, the United Nations Security Council. That country is India. But why? Why does not India have a permanent seat while countries that won the Second World War still hold that privilege after more than 80 years? The answer is more complicated than most people think. Let's find out. What is the UN Security Council? To understand the issue, we first need to know what is the Security Council actually. The United Nations was created in 1945 after World War II with one major goal to prevent another global war. Today, nearly every country in the world is a member of United Nations. However, not every country has equal power. The most powerful body within the UN is called the Security Council. It consists of 15 members. 10 members are selected for 2 year terms. But 5 countries have permanent seats. These countries are United States, Russia, China, United Kingdoms, and France. These 5 countries are known as the Permanent Five or simply the P5. They also possess an extraordinary power, the veto. The veto means that if one permanent member votes against a major resolution, the resolution actually cannot pass, even if almost every other country supports it. This makes the Security Council one of the most influential institutions in the global politics. So, why is not India one of these permanent members? To answer that, we need to go back in history. Why were these 5 countries chosen? When the United Nations was founded in 1945, World War II had just ended. The 5 permanent members were the major allied powers that played central roles in defeating the Axis powers. At that time, India was still under British rule and gained independence only in 1947. As a result, India was never considered for a permanent membership when the UN was established. But the world has changed dramatically since then. Countries have grown stronger, new economies have emerged, and global power has shifted. Many people now believe that the Security Council should also change to the better represent today's world. Does India need a permanent seat? So, if the world has changed so much since 1945, why do so many countries believe India should become a permanent member? Let's start with India's population. India is the world's most populous country with over 1.4 billion people. That means nearly 1 out of every 6 people on earth is Indian. Supporters argue that such a large part of humanity could have permanent representation in the UN Security Council. Next comes the economy. India is now one of the world's largest economies and is expected by many economists to continue growing in the coming decades. It is a major power in technology, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, digital innovations, and international trade. As India's economic influence grows, many believe its role in global decision making should grow as well. India has also made remarkable achievements in science space exploration. Through ISRO, India has successfully launched missions to the moon and Mars, developed its own satellite system, and demonstrated advanced space technology at comparatively lower cost. These achievements have strengthened India's reputation around the world, but India's contribution goes beyond science. For decades, India has been one of the largest contributors to the United Nations peacekeeping missions. Thousands of Indian soldiers, doctors, engineers, and police officers have served in conflict zones across Africa, Asia, and other regions. Their mission has been to protect civilians, maintain peace, and help countries recover afterwards. Many Indian peacekeepers have even sacrificed their lives while serving under the UN flag. This long history of service is often represented as one of the strongest arguments in the support of India's permanent membership. India also plays an increasingly important role in international diplomacy, whether it is climate change, disaster relief, global health, maritime security, or economic cooperation. India regularly participates in international decisions and works with countries across the world. Because of these contributions, several major countries, including the US, France, and UK, and Russia, have publicly expressed support for India's aspiration to become a permanent member of the Security Council. However, support alone is not enough. The system can only change if member states agree on reforms, and that has proven to be one of the biggest challenges. So, if India has the population, the economy, the global influence, and the experience, what is still stopping it from becoming a permanent member? Let's find out what is stopping India. Now comes the biggest question. If India has the population, the economy, military strength, and international support, then why was not it become a permanent member of the UN Security Council? The biggest reason is the change the Security Council is extremely difficult. The UN Charter can only be amended if at least two-thirds of the UN member states approve the change. After that, all five permanent members, the United States, Russia, China, and the United Kingdoms, and France must also ratify it. This means that even if most countries support India's bid, reforms cannot move forward unless the existing permanent members also agree. Another challenge is that not every country supports the same proposal for Security Council reform. Some countries believe that adding only a few new permanent members would still leave many regions underrepresented. Others argue that instead of creating more permanent seats, the United Nations should expand the number of elected members. There are also regional rivalries. For example, some neighboring countries have raised objection to the India's permanent membership. Similar disagreements exist in other regions of the world as well, where countries compete for greater international influence. This makes negotiation slow and complicated. At the same time, many nations, including the G4 group made up of India, Japan, Germany, and Brazil, continue to push for Security Council reform. They argue that today's world is very different from 1945 and that the UN should better reflect current global realities. Supporters for reform say that a many representative Security Council would improve the credibility and effectiveness of the nations. However, critics believe that expanding the number of permanent members could take decisions making even more difficult, especially because of permanent members hold veto power. So, what does the future look like? No one knows exactly when or if the Security Council will be reformed, but one thing is certain. India's influence in the world continues to grow through its economy, technology, diplomacy, defense, and contributions to international peace. Whether or not India receives a permanent soon, it has already become one of the most important voices in global affairs. Perhaps the real question is no longer whether India is ready for a permanent seat. Perhaps the question is whether the United Nations is ready to reform itself for the 21st century. Only time will tell. So, what do you think? Should India become a permanent member of the UN Security Council? Share your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Ask Bharat Time, and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. See you in the next documentary.